All right, I'm Ben Bellin, and today we're going to be looking at a case study. This is from the University of Western Ontario, and we're going to be looking at some licensing deals they're considering for technology they've developed. So first, we want to look at key factors they're considering, right? What are the key things they should be looking at? And I've come up with 3. So first off, commercialization strategy. So how do the people they're potentially going to license this technology out to, how do they plan on transforming it? How do they plan on bringing the products or services to market? Next thing they need to look at is stakeholder engagement. So that's looking at how do the people who plan on leading these companies, so the CEOs, how are they going to work with the researchers? How are they going to work with the university? What other potential people are they going to be bringing in? And then finally, IP protection. So, how does it help secure their IP? How are they going to protect the inventions and innovations they're coming up with? All right, next thing I did was we looked at the net present value for each proposed deal, which there were 2 of. So the first one was NEWCO 1, so that they have said $150,000 in initial funding, and that's $50,000 for patent costs, $100,000 for development. It's important to note that this technology under NEWCO 1 would be developed outside the university. And then finally, a $50,000 one-time upfront fee. Also, no milestone payments, no annual licensing fees or royalties. Now, the big thing for NEWCO 1 is there's a potentially incredibly lucrative 50% ownership stake. So, and that right now in the startup phase would be valued at $1 million, but in the future it could be worth up to $60 million. And the university has said they expect their percentage to go down to as low as 10% once that company goes public. So, and a pessimistic view of this deal would be 1.2 million, and an optimistic would be 60.2. Next is NEWCO 2. They've set $100,000 in initial funding, $50,000 for patents, $50,000 one-time upfront. They do have milestone payments. These milestone payments total $800,000. They're going to have annual licensing fees of $20,000, and that is worth, net present value to that is $500,000. That's with a 4% interest rate. They also have said royalty payments, which are going to be 1.5% of net revenue, which conservatively in the current stage development would be $200,000, but then again in that third phase, assuming that they value their company at around 3 to 4 times the revenue, it's going to be worth $2.25 million. They also have said an 8% current ownership stake, which right now is $160,000, but in the future could be $48 million. So that leads us to our final valuations for NEWCO 2, which conservatively are 1.63 and optimistically are 49.63 million. Okay, but there are risks that are associated with each of these deals. So looking at NEWCO 1, they have some major risks. The biggest one is that Public One won't be interested. I've said Public One is the executioner because they decide whether this company lives or dies, right? They get first right of refusal as well, which is a big deal. So that means if they potentially want to sell, it's going to first go to Public One and they get to decide whether to buy it. Now, they've said they'd buy it based on a fair market value, but that can be incredibly difficult to determine, and that could lead to some problems down the road. Other things to note, they have a moderate burn-through rate. So right now, they have 1.9 million cash on hand, but they're going through 1.5 million a year, which gives them a 15-month runaway. So that's something to notice. They might need more cash. Also, again, potential for shares to be diluted, and since the 50% stake is such a large part of the deal, that is something you really have to watch out for. Another risk I've listed is that the technology would be developed outside the university, which gives the university less control, less oversight, and benefits the university less. And then finally, they have said they're going to have terms for tech retraction, but it has not been specified yet. Looking over at NEWCO 2, I think the biggest risk with them is their very potentially long development timeline because it will be developed in a university lab. And instead of outside of it, it could take much longer, which is something to look out for because the window of opportunity could close. There's also, unlike in NEWCO 1, there is no observer status under liquidation. And also, for NEWCO 2, they don't plan on having the business being stationed locally. So they're not going to have local economic development, which is a risk for the university because that's one of the major things they want to accomplish. All right. Now we want to look at some criteria. What are the criteria they should be judging these deals on? First off is the financial return structure. So we've already looked at that. That's the royalties, the equity, the subleasing. What are their plans for that? For NEWCO 1, obviously that right of refusal is something to note. For Public One, And then, for NEWCO 2, they have that 3% subleasing. We also want to look at development obligations. So are they actively being encouraged to develop the IP? So what are the milestones? What do those look like? We know NEWCO 1 doesn't have any. NEWCO 2 does, valued at $800,000. We want progress reports. We want termination rights. And then finally, last criteria here is the control and the exit strategies, right? The safeguards. So what does the oversight look like for each? Obviously, in that early stage when developing the IP, the university is going to have much more oversight with NEWCO 2, because it's going to be developed right in there. What is the indemnification looking like? And then obviously potential buyers, which, both have ties to major public corporations. And in the case of NEWCO 1, public one gets first right of refusal. So all the criteria here and all the different aspects of each deal kind of paint a picture for you, right? When we're trying to determine who we want to go with, we get a picture painted for us of what these people might look like. And so I want to show you what I think the CEO of NEWCO 1 looks like and what the picture that has been painted for me. What am I getting out of this? All right, here's what he looks like in my mind. He looks evil. He looks crazy. I do not trust this guy whatsoever. This deal hinges entirely on that ownership percentage, which could go down to basically nothing in the future. And again, this guy is what he looks like in my mind, and I do not trust him. Frankly, I don't trust him. I feel like he's not going to be held accountable. He or she, I should say. I don't know. But then looking over at NEWCO 2, I know they're going to be held accountable. There's much more of a guarantee of, us receiving funding from that, receiving revenue from that. And I trust them much more because the product's going to be developed in our lab. So I know we're going to benefit from that from a fact right out the gate. So for all these reasons, I'm going 100% Team NEWCO 2.